If the playoffs aren't eliminated following what we just witnessed tonight, I don't think we will ever see them gone. Hello everybody, I hate making this kind of video, but I feel the need to vent, and I feel like this is probably the way to do it. And what we just witnessed in the ending of the NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville was nothing short of embarrassing from manufacturers, drivers, and the sport itself. It was genuinely a disaster. It's moments like this where I am embarrassed to say I'm a fan of this series at times, and they really consider themselves to be a high-class motorsport, top-tier motorsport, and then something like that happens. We saw an interesting race. It wasn't great. It's a typical next-gen race where it felt like with the new tire it did get a little bit better, but still, if you watched NASCAR before the next-gen era, you would know that short track package still isn't up to par of where it needs to be. But aside from the racing itself, I mean, we had a polarizing strategy race going before the final caution. Then it was a straight up race from that point on where things got ugly in the closing laps, of course. It all started when the 24 started losing positions, and suddenly it didn't matter if the 5 or the 9 won the race. They were both going to put Byron in a really awkward position where he was going to have to go head-to-head on points with Christopher Bell to advance into the Final Four, and it got really ugly, and it really shouldn't have, and it did. Byron, he did absolutely nothing wrong. His car fell off a cliff. He was getting passed by the 2 of Cindric, the 11 of Hamlin got him late, of course the 12 of Blaney got by him early on in the run, and of course when he carved his way past Larson and Elliott to win the race, and he was certainly being aggressive doing it, and which was great to see some aggression, but we saw, of course, at 24 put himself in a position to where he was now only 1 point above the cut line. If he lost any more positions before the race had ended and it turned into a tie, Christopher Bell would get the tiebreaker with the second place result in Las Vegas. And it was looking okay because Christopher Bell could not gain any more positions, but Byron, of course, could not lose anymore. Bell couldn't gain because he was the first car lap down, but Byron certainly could lose more, and that's where the problem, of course, presented itself. And then we saw the start of the first half of embarrassment and manipulation. Chevrolet having Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon queue up behind the 24 side by side, and you could see where they would have more pace on the exit of the corner, and they would deliberately lift and make sure they did not get alongside the 24. It was blatant race manipulation there, and we of course heard the radios played from the 3 team and the 1 team after the race concluded, and that the radios pretty well confirmed it was race manipulation. They were talking about a deal that we had with Chevrolet, I guess, and that was, I mean, that's enough in itself. I mean, if you watched with your own eyes, you would know. If you have common sense, you would know that was already blatant manipulation without having to hear the radio. We saw the 1 car on the top, the 3 car on the bottom, both blatantly stay side by side and block all traffic behind them that had a chance to go through and pass at 24, which would have been rival manufacturers like Ford and Brad Keselowski, who was right there in the mix trying to get past at 3. But instead they rode there, and you saw moments where they would get runs on the 24 and they would just simply back out to make sure they didn't get the opportunity to actually pass them. Embarrassing from Chevrolet, embarrassing from Austin Dillon, and embarrassing from Ross Chastain. If Chastain and Dillon aren't penalized, I am a fan. As a fan, I'm quite disappointed. Keep in mind, this video it's all just an opinion piece. We are free to, of course, discuss and debate who's right, who's wrong. But for myself, this is my personal opinion on what we, of course, saw. And of course we saw this developing with the 1 and the 3 riding behind the 24, making sure that they weren't going to pass them and making sure nobody behind them was going to be able to pass by staying side by side, and literally creating a roadblock to make sure that 24 would remain 1 point above the cut line. But in the closing laps, Toyota obviously caught on to what was going on, and I'm sure Toyota right now is fuming because they now only have the 45 car in the Final Four when they could have had the 20 of Christopher Bell in as well. Anyways, we saw Toyota obviously catch on to what was happening, and in the last couple laps, Bubba Wallace suddenly loses all the pace in the world, and he is quite literally the slowest car on track. I mean, we could have seen, go-karts go quicker than the 23 car in the last couple of laps, and you saw on the final lap live, it cut to the 24 actually blowing past the 23, and you also saw the 3 and the 1 do everything they could to make sure in that chaos of getting around the 23 that nobody could actually go after the 24 as well, and they actually did it and executed pretty well on that. I gotta give it to them there. But of course, Bubba so far off the pace. It just so happens that the 20 of Christopher Bell, after the 23 goes a lap down on the final lap, Bell is able to get alongside Bubba Wallace on the final lap into turn 3 and pass Bubba Wallace for position, sliding up into the outside wall and then hammering the throttle and doing a half Chastain-esque wall ride to the line where, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't gain anything out of riding the wall, but of course he did kind of pass the 23, and the process of him doing that, he was sliding up towards the wall, so I can see why NASCAR ruled him to be, I guess, wall riding. Now, my problem is just pure manipulation. We just saw a Chevrolet intentionally and blatantly, they didn't even try to hide it. They blatantly manipulated that race to ensure the 24 would not have to go to a tiebreaker with the 20 of Christopher Bell. Then we saw Toyota very much do the exact same thing, manipulate it. Bubba Wallace radioed up. We heard the radio where they informed Bubba Wallace of the situation with the 20, and just so coincidentally, suddenly Bubba Wallace has a tire going flat. Yeah, no coincidence. Anyways, we saw blatant manipulation from Toyota to follow Chevrolet's manipulation. Both manufacturers should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. NASCAR should be ashamed of themselves, and they should be ashamed of the manufacturers involved and the teams. Hendrick Motorsports is probably the innocent team in this process, but then again, who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But Toyota, Bubba Wallace, 2311, I would expect, I want to see them penalized. I want to see Ross Chastain and Trackhouse penalized. Austin Dillon, as well as Richard Childress Racing along with Chevrolet. There's no way those three, components should escape without a penalty. Personally, I think the only right ruling that NASCAR could have made was take both the 24 and the 20 out and put the 5 car of Kyle Larson in. Let me know what you think down below in that situation. Should the 24 get in? I think that 24 and the 20 should very well be out, and Larson should be getting that final spot. He's really the one that didn't do anything wrong below those two, of course, in the standings. But such an embarrassing moment, and I think the playoffs this year have really exposed its problems. We've known there's been problems with the playoffs, obviously. But we just watched Kyle Larson win 6 races, so dominant all season long. Almost won tonight, ended up coming up short, falling off at the end, but won 6 races, came up just shy of a regular season championship. If he would have shown up in Charlotte, he would have won it. He's eliminated. He doesn't even have a chance to win a championship. Joey Logano, who was 15th or 16th in the regular season standings, only really in the playoffs because of that win in Nashville, well, he's now got a chance to win a championship because he's in the Final Four. That in itself, I think, really proves some issues with the playoff format as we continue to kind of watch it unravel. And now, of course, we have seen race manipulation before in the playoffs. I mean, Cole Custer, the 41, Charlotte Roval 2022, I think it was. Yes, for sure. So now this was just so much more blatant, not only from Chevrolet, but Toyota as well. And I can't believe, in this moment, kind of what our favorite motorsport has come to at times. I mean, there's entertainment, and then there's that, and that was neither. There's no entertainment, there was no good racing there. That was just embarrassment all around, and just so disappointed with every party involved for making the sport that I have loved since I was a 9 or 10-year-old kid make itself look so stupid and embarrassing, and just a mockery to all motorsports tonight. It's so disappointing. I don't really know what else to say. I just wanted to vent and get my feelings out. I might not even post this. I feel a lot better now after speaking about it out loud. Maybe I will still post it, but I hope you guys had a great day. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the race, but I'm sure you're disappointed with the ending as well. There's no place for that in any motorsport, not NASCAR. And I think there is still a place in NASCAR for a postseason. But I think the way to go is what we used to have, the 10 race chase. Take 16 drivers in on points. The top 16, not 32nd place who won a race, literally the top 16. Give them 10 races to fight it out, most points wins the championship. 10 races is enough of a sample size for a postseason to still get a proper champion, in my personal opinion. Nonetheless, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm done ranting. So frustrated and embarrassed with NASCAR, but that's going to wrap it up for me. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and of course, let me know your thoughts down below.